Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning or good afternoon, as the case might be, wherever you're
Yeah, who knows?
listening.
It might even be good evening,
It
depending
might
on when
be
you're listening.
true. I love being international. It's actually
Right?
like
Right?
such a such a gift. I don't know. It's such a compliment. I guess that's the word I'm looking for.
So, one thing that's funny, I'll just say, so Sagittarius, that's why I'm a Sagittarius, and Sagittariuses are also known as world travelers.
Mm.
But there have been times in my life where I haven't had the luxury of traveling the world. But my astrologist, Mary, who's been on the show and who is also our resident Egyptologist, but she told me, like, even if you don't go travel the world will come to you, which
Mm.
is so right, because over the years I've had so many international clients. And then, like I said, when I go and check out the stats on the show, and like people are watching us in China, in Australia, in Russia, like everywhere. Mongolia, somebody watched us in Mongolia. I'm like, how crazy is that? And we were ranked in Sweden for a while, which also just blows my mind, but super cool.
It is super cool. I love it. This morning I had my international thoughts because I am I love good essential oils. I know you're like an essential oil guru.
You can
Um,
see them all right here
yeah,
behind you.
and you have them memorized. Like you're so much further along the path than I am. I can only remember like a few things and what they're for. The other day there was the
That's what
air
Google's for.
the air in the studio was a little too smoky from some sage recently,
Mm.
and I brought out spearmint, and it just like lifted the air, and it was so nice. It was so cleansing. But today I have Shinrin Yoku going, which is Japanese forest bathing, and that is my new and latest obsession. I really feel I did my sound certification, right? So I'm dying to like get into the gongs and the bowls. Like I'm so excited. But I've been looking at breath work courses, and then because Facebook, I don't care what anybody says, I love the psycho algorithm. I like that Facebook listens to me. It brings me what I want without me having to research it. So I'm all about the what is it? The man could listen to me. Go ahead, make my life easier. But it brought me a course in forest bathing therapy, and I really 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 want to do it. I'm doing the numbers, I'm doing the math, I'm making it sure. But anyway, yeah. So I'm sitting in what smells like a Japanese forest right now.
I'm like, well, and it's so funny because that's what I put in my diffuse. Like, we are so tuned into each other today. That is not what I normally put in, but for whatever reason, I was drawn to Shinrin Yoku, and it's in here. And I also put it in the lobby of my office space here. So we are totally tuned in today. I
Totally,
love it.
totally insane.
I have to say, like, who knew that there was a course on forest bathing?
You know what? It's actually been I have a little book on it that I keep here in the studio, and it started in Japan, and then it had, like everything else, it's been, making its way to the West. And there are tons of courses about it, which I mean, okay, I know this is just the intro and we can't talk for all 40 minutes, but I will say it's kind of crazy. I don't know what the word is, irritating and fascinating at the same time that, ancient methods are quote unquote being discovered. Like people always were in the woods, people always were close to nature. And then at some point, everything got stripped away, right? And now it's considered new agey to go hug a tree, right? But hugging a tree had been done for thousands of years, for millennia. Like what? Anyway, so
We're
yeah,
just remembering and waking up. Thank God. Thank God.
paving the
But
way
it is
back
funny that
home.
they call it new age because it's really old age. But it's okay. It's okay. At least we're getting there.
100%.
And I do want to take a little credit for that because I've been holding space for all of this to happen for so long. Seeing the light in all of you, every single one of you out there, you are the light of the world. And I see you, and I want you to see you too. That is my mission in life. And And with that, I think that we should bring on our amazing guest, who is also the light of the world.
I love it. I love it.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the show, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning. What a lovely conversation the two of you were having with the essential oils, because that's right there what I do as well. One of my passions, it's integrative energy and honoring ancestral healing and life and recalling all those things that are deep within all of us. And practicing the integrative energy is really important with me, with the sound and the meditation. And it's such a passion of mine currently. And it's always been there. It's just life, as we know, with passions, it all changes. What one passion is in one part of your life is different as time goes by. I recently retired from being an elementary school teacher. Worked for 30 years in the school district, and that was 2020. So that was a passion of mine, the children and the learning, and I believe in lifelong learning, such a passion. And, that passion has now taken a back seat. My passion now more is focused on my family. Now that I have that time, I have a new grandson, 1.5 years. So he has a private tutor, and I get to take all of that experience and put it into his little body and soul. Yeah, and traveling has really, really become another one of my passions. Most recently, was in Paris and Istanbul back in July.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been to Greece and Cuba and Australia and Fiji. I mean, it's just nice now because I don't have to go to work. So I'm a little bit freer to do these things.
Have you been to Egypt?
I haven't been to Egypt, no.
November this year. Come with me.
Oh, I would love
and everybody
to.
else out there in the audience, come with us.
Yeah. I do have a trip coming up, though, that I'm focusing on in September and October. I'm going to England and Scotland on a beautiful retreat. So, that's going to be my financial focus right now. Yeah.
Hear ya.
That's so inspirational, so exciting. Having traveled the world, what do you find is common amongst all cultures, if anything?
I believe that all people want joy and peace and happiness. And when I travel, I feel comfortable. I embrace the society, their ways, and just look for the joy in the people's faces. And you always come back with a different energy from the country and the people. And it just enriches your whole soul, how you look at things when you come back to the United States. So, I think overall people care. They want to be happy. They want to be helpful. And it's what you put your focus into.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me how the powers that be are creating these wars. But so back in 1986, I was an exchange student with an organization called AFS. And it was created by ambulance drivers from World War I and World War II, wanting to create peace in the world. And, their thing was that they knew that if we knew the people in other parts of the world, that we wouldn't want to kill them. We wouldn't want to go to war with them. And, people are people everywhere in the world. And the powers that be try and convince us that we're different, and that we can't get along, and that we have to fight each other. And, it's so not true, people. It's so not true.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a couple of Sinead O'Connor and a couple of Bono songs that talk about that, I think it was, I remember learning it when I studied Buddhism, but it was, the phrase was something like, every living thing wants to be happy and does not want to suffer. And that it's not just people, right? Like it's literally everything that's alive is trying to stay alive and trying to not suffer, I think when you look at the world like that, you have a little bit more compassion for everything around you, you know, maybe even, you know, those little plants next to you, maybe those, even the, you know, I don't know, all the creatures.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know. I was somewhere this weekend and we were talking about vegans and someone said the vegans don't know how to hear the tomato scream while they're eating.
Oh.
Because, you know, like I understand that you can view an animal different than a plant, but a plant is just as much a living creature. And my experience with plants is that they do have a consciousness and a soul. I mean, you know, we've talked about it a bunch of times, Graciela, how the plants appear to be far more intelligent than what we are.
You know, my brother says that reptiles get a bad rap because they don't have eyebrows, and so they can't express their discontent. You know, you can't tell the difference between a happy snake and a sad snake, so you don't give the snake a personality, right? But anyway, all right, we're diverting. We've gone too far. We've gone too far. So, Pam, let me ask you, with this freedom that you have, and it's so, I love that you're a teacher. You know, I think it's one of those things that you're a teacher whether you're working as one or not. So transitioning to where you are now, there must have been some hurdles along the way. Can you share with our listeners what are some limiting beliefs that you had to set aside to be able to embrace such a different life?
Yeah, it's interesting because stopping being a teacher came on suddenly. And, you know, I knew inside that it was coming. I felt it the last few years of my career, but I always believed that the hurdle I could jump over is to believe that I can do anything I put my mind to, as long as I have support from the proper people. You know, my husband, my son, my dear friend out in Oregon, my family, they were always behind me, cheering me on. But when COVID came and I had to teach 26-year-olds online daily, it was like, whoa. I did the very, very best I could. And I knew I had an intact classroom back at the school. And when August rolled around, I just was feeling it. It was bubbling. It was like, I need a change. I have to go with these other things that are developing in my desires of things to do. And a week before school started, I was sitting on the couch and I just felt this feeling. And my husband looked over at me and he was like, "What?" And I said, "I don't want to do it anymore." And he handed me the phone and he said, "Make the call."
Wow.
And like that, I did. I was retired within 2 days. I went to the school and I saw my assistant principal and handed her my Chromebook. And she said, "If you turn this in, we can't give you another one. We'll have to give it to a student." I said, "That's okay." And we went and had a little silent conversation. She goes, "What about your classroom?" I said, "Everything in it is for whoever wants it." And that was letting go, you know, and I look back on that and it's like, wow, but it was so empowering, you know. So again, it's just trusting that there's feelings and things that you know deep inside, and sometimes you just have to be brave enough to do it.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, though. You know, we've talked about numerous times, like, we were kind of raised that you go to college, you get a degree, and then that's what you do for the rest of your life. And for some of us, it's really difficult to make that switch and choose us versus doing what we should do. And yeah, when you can finally do that, it is super empowering. So
And you know, it was letting that go, and it just opened up so many other opportunities. We were able to just take this road trip up to the mountains in October, and then, you know, one thing led to another, and my son met his now wife during this time, and you know, and then Luke was born, and it's just opened up such a whole new world of freedom. And, time is irrelevant. It's given me the time to focus on all of the learning for my sound and healing vibrational classes and meditation and life coach. And right now I'm teaching myself to play a drone flute. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I find that, one bold decision leads to another, I love that you explained really the ripple effect of being bold and listening to yourself. We talk a lot on the show about authenticity and being true to yourself, and that's really the portal, to maintaining that happiness. I'll never forget when I was quitting my legal career. There were a lot of women that I worked with that had been in the legal career for a really long time, like 30, 40 years. And they were so fearful. And they kept telling me, I think I was like 30 at the time. They were telling me, are you sure? No, I wasn't 30. I was 39 at the time. They said, are you sure? There's so much job security here. And I'm like, I physically cannot stay. Like how you said, like it's been bubbling up. It's ready to go. And when you make one bold decision, you're like, wow, I did that. It paid off. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. And then you're addicted to the freedom of choice. That if you guys take anything out of this podcast today, there is nothing sweeter than the freedom of choice, really.
Yeah. And believing in yourself. And, everybody can tell you their opinions and their thoughts and their shoulds and their shouldn'ts and that. But, it's that getting up in the morning, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, hey, what kind of day are you going to have? What choices are you going to make? And it's all the things that you project out to other people is doing that for yourself, and making the time to do it for yourself is so important.
So I feel like I have to give that speech all day, every day to my clients, that if you don't choose yourself first, eventually you're not going to be there for anyone. So,
you won't have choices, right?
Yeah.
The
choices
airline
are
has
use it
it
and
right
lose
when
it.
they say put your oxygen mask on first.
That's the truth, right?
Yeah. I think choices are, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? If you don't exercise your freedom and exercise your choices, they will be slowly taken away from you, whether it's your health, your wealth, your, what you do in a day. So your story is very inspirational. I love it.
Thank you.
So given that I'm sitting here with two past teachers, and I don't know, I have this assumption that all teachers love books. So Pam, I'm very curious to know, what book would you like to add to our goddess library? What's the book that every goddess should read?
That has been a big one for me, because I am like reading constantly, purchasing new books, reading books. I love books. I just adore them. And I've read, the Four Agreements, and I've read The Untethered Soul, and I've read so many of the spiritual soul journey type books, and I love them all. But recently I've had to switch to some novels, and there's one in particular. I've got like 6 books sitting in front of me, like, what did I really want to talk about? Which book? And, I do follow the moon, and lunar abundance is really important to me, because it's just written so nicely, so clearly, and the moon does affect us. Some people don't want to believe it, but when you start following the cycles, you see how it works for yourself. So that wasn't the novel. I'm going to show you one that I'm halfway through that I'm loving, and then I'm going to get into the core book. Right now, I am reading The Mists of Avalon. And it's the story of King Arthur told from the women's perspective. And it's quite lovely. Yeah. So the book that I would love to recommend, that I think every goddess or god should read, is The Red Tent.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Tent is Such a good book. It is out on video as well. But this book is what we're doing right now. It's what's missing in society for women, especially. Um, Women are now, working full time, raising the children, taking care of the husbands, doing this, doing that. We're just doing, and we've lost that sense of being. And the red tent is from a woman's perspective named Dina back in the biblical times. And the stories that happen are basically the same things that go on in our lives on a daily basis, except they had this tribe of women that they sat around with, that they could talk, and they all worked together. And if there was a situation and they needed some advice, it was there unconditionally. They all helped each other with everything, raising the children. And the story is just so beautiful. And, I think, that's what women need so much in today's world, is to make the time for themselves and the other women. And, doing these things virtually, it technically is a red tent or a purple tent.
Well, it's just the truth of the millennium. It's what we have available to us, I think part of what makes our coming together so difficult is literally geography, just how far away we are from each other. I laugh because we're in South Florida, and to go 3 miles, it might take me 15 minutes, like it might take 20 minutes, so even getting places is harder. And then you have to like carve it out on your calendar, and you have to make a conscious effort. Whereas back in the day, quote unquote, we lived in villages, and we lived, the houses were much smaller and physically closer to each other. And so sure, while the kids were sleeping, you could get up, go next door, have a cup of coffee with your girlfriend, and then like go about your day. I mean, can you imagine how beautiful, like I tell Juliet all the time, I kind of want to do like a 5:30, 6 a.m. cacao something, just virtual, because sometimes I wake up and I have all these great ideas from cacao, and I just want to share them, but I can't call anybody, and I can't go to my neighbor. How do you do that? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really want to get like the appointments out of my life. I would love to just be with women in an organic way,
But yeah, it's really a beautiful book. I would suggest reading the book before watching the video. That way you can create your characters in your mind and, go that way. But
The book is always better than the movie anyway.
we weren't supposed to look like that.
And I love so much that you brought up a novel. And so, my searching, my craving has me always reading, nonfiction books, which, like The Four Agreements and Untethered Soul and all of these, like I love them all so much.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, I don't even remember when the last time I read a novel was. And so I think you've inspired me, Pam. I'm going to pick up a novel.
Yeah, because we can continue to read and read and read and learn and, take down notes and, but sometimes, you just have to step away from that for a little bit and let yourself be immersed in a story and a storyline and just, be part of it. And reading, I love reading. I love reading.
I think the story is the embodiment of the nonfiction, right? Like the self-help books that we read are kind of the instruction manual. And then you can always find the story that's kind of the living example, if you will, of that very same teaching, I have read Sue Monk Kidd quite a bit. And she's got some really cool books. I have a few. Like I can't get into, I mean, the last time I read Stephen King, I was like 11. That was a Gen X criticism. I never should have done that. I read it when I was like 11. That was bad. Although I was very proud of myself for reading a 1,000-page book. But anyway, I can't get into like, the Harlequin romance novels. I can't get into the Crime and Punishment stuff. Like I can't do that. But a good story, especially stories like the one you just talked about, because they endure for a reason, right? The canon is the canon. I mean, there's a lot of reasons the canon's a canon, but stories endure for a reason. And I think there's lessons to be learned in there too. So I think they can be just as valuable. It's just how you want to consume your information.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And talking about books, I did purchase your book that you said you had read many, many years ago. It's in my pile of The Woman in the Cave, the Snow Cave.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have that. It's like sitting there waiting, but I'm in the
Awesome.
middle of King Arthur's women. So
I love it. I think we should have all our books rewritten from a woman's perspective. How fresh and exciting would that be?
it's a different story for sure, for sure. Yeah.
On a little side note there, my cat is named Merlin.
Oh.
I adopted this cat and he was 2 and he came with the name Oscar. And I'm like, your name is not Oscar. Like when I hear Oscar, all I think of is Oscar the Grouch, and he is not a grouchy cat. So I'm sitting there like throwing names at him. And when I said Merlin, he turned and looked at me. I was like, oh, that's your name. Very fitting for me to have Merlin the magician as my cat. And
Yeah.
kind of is a magician.
That's a great name for a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Very magical. Pam, so so your next adventures are more travel, and all of your studies. What can we expect to see from you this year?
Well, I do monthly sound bath meditations at a little local boutique studio here where I live, and that kind of just happened. I was just going to yoga, a lot of restorative yin, and just started chatting. And about a year ago, the opportunity was, well, hey, would you like to? I'm like, oh, yes. So, I'm focusing on that, and because it's just a monthly thing, I put so much time and effort and energy into the playlist and where is the moon right then, and the music and the meditation and the oils and balancing it with the bowls. And it's just creating. It's just full-blown creating. That's what I'm doing. And, like I said, that balancing with my family, utmost important. And there's always those little trips in the in the background. It's like, okay, what's going to come after England and Scotland?
Tell folks where you live. Where can they find you?
I am in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Yeah.
Perfect. We'll have to check the show notes later and get the details on where we can go hear you.
A little road trip up there. It's not too far.
It's really not that far. The traveling, like coming down south, it's easy to get down there. But then once you have an experience, whether it's a sound bath or a meditation or a cacao ceremony, whatever it is, gongs especially, to transition and then have to come back home, those kind of things don't really mix well with the traffic and that. So, it's not that we're that far. It's just a matter of making it all work, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
For sure.
That's why you time retreats where you spend the night.
We know those well.
Yes.
Oh, I'm like so relaxed from this conversation. I'm like, we have to keep going and doing
that. Well, we need to make our appointment for a Pam experience is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like share your schedule with us so that we, is it online anywhere, or how do we find out how to?
It is on the website of the yoga studio. I am in the process of learning how to incorporate these things, in technology. I try to put that up for people to see on my newly created page that I'm working diligently on. It's just a
Love
new
it.
thing for me. They're monthly, usually on a Tuesday evening, 5:45. I've got one tomorrow, actually. So this is an exciting week for me, having this lovely time with you ladies, and then having my meditation sound bath tomorrow, taking the energy that we just had from the new moon, and now, manifesting those intentions. Yeah, it's quite a journey. It's quite a journey.
I love it. And I love, seeing, because a lot of times people retire from their careers and then they just sit there and don't know what to do. And so you're creating this whole new life for you, which is so amazing. So amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm enjoying my life. Actually, I feel younger now than I did when I was younger. How did I do all those things? Where did I fit it all in? And now it's like, wow.
It's not even how, it's why. Why did we fit it all in? Right? It's to me, this is the gift of gray hair and wisdom, that comes. It's like you realize this again, the freedom of choice, right? Mm-hmm. So bringing this a bit to a close, our mission is always to inspire women to realize that they have everything they need inside of them and that they are magic. And so thank you for everything that you've said today, because Lord knows it has inspired to me to dig out my passport yet again and get it in front of my face. What parting thoughts would you have for our audience?
To trust in yourself is very important. It's just trusting that whole process, and to know that the journey is the reward. Yeah. Just to believe in yourself, accept things that you can't change, move forward. But yeah, just embrace the process of life.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Pam. It has been a lovely, and I don't know, it has been just like such a peaceful, which also I've been writing that a lot in my manifestation, that I'm trying to manifest more peace. And so this was an embodiment of that. It just felt so peaceful and wonderful. But thank you again for joining us. Thank you to our audience for listening. And if you're watching us on YouTube, if you hit the like button, which it should be lighting up right now as I'm saying, hit the like button. Hit that like button, and please share this with anyone who you think could benefit from listening to it. Subscribe, do all those good things, comment. It really helps keep the show going and the magic spreading through the world.
Thank you for having me. It was a very, very wonderful way to start the day. Absolutely.
Yay.
Start the week. Start the new week.
Yes.
Have a great day, everyone.